Gonna get that Barbell Shrugged tattoo. Went on the show.
There it is.
Tahoe.
Welcome to Barbell Shrugged. I'm Anders Varner. That's Doug Larson. Antony Trucks.
Hey.
We are in Tahoe at the Spartan World Championship, Spartan World Media Fest, presented by ATP Science. We're at the Airbnb that they put us up in.
It's a very modest
I think we're
Airbnb.
contributing to what's going on down at the Village right now by bringing him away from the Village and away from the event to here so we can talk about all the things on this beautiful mountain that we think we're going to run
tomorrow,
on
man.
Saturday.
Dude, couldn't be nicer out here.
Right?
It's beautiful.
It's gorgeous.
Where do you start running us? I did the beast last year, my wife.
Oh, yeah, me too.
You
Yeah, we did it.
Yeah, the first 100 yards, I got this. And you can't breathe.
Can you believe that the professional OCR people we're good friends with Hunter McIntyre? I don't know if you know him, but he won this event a couple times.
Oh, wow.
They're picking off sub 5-minute miles for 13, 14 straight miles at a time running up that hill.
That's nuts, man.
It's not a hill. It's like 12,000 foot
it's a mountain.
Yeah. When I think about just running a 5-minute mile, it seems impossible to me.
Just on flat ground.
Much less running up a mountain plus obstacles with no air, and you're just picking off fives. Just
very human.
13 at a time.
Our military should make the people do that, because they just go crazy.
Yeah.
Dude,
I feel like the 5-minute thing might be a little exaggerated, but
No, it's not.
They're going super fast.
No, I think they're right around 5-minute miles.
5-minute miles going straight up a mountain?
Yeah.
I heard somebody did finished it in 3.5-ish hours. And I don't know how many miles it is, but we could probably
Last year was 13 and change. It was like a legitimate it's a legitimate half marathon, and I think it was 5 minutes. Because if you did a half marathon at your local half marathon and you were really good, you're doing it well under 3.5 hours, I would imagine.
Yeah. I think so.
I don't really know.
I know somebody
for a half
recently,
marathon
some
for sure.
Kenyan guy finished a whole marathon in a couple hours recently.
Yeah.
2 hours is the standard for marathons for really fast.
So add an hour for the hill. It's just wild to me that somebody, even if there was 5:30, if you're going sub 6 for 13 in a row up a mountain with 12,000 foot of elevation, you're a freak of nature.
Oh, yeah. And then carrying things, obstacles,
Yeah, you have to stop every once in a while. That bucket that you carry at the top was surprisingly heavy last year.
I almost passed out carrying that. My wife, I'm not even joking. I got lightheaded multiple times carrying the bucket last year.
I go into it, I'm like, I'm probably stronger than 90% of the people here. I assume I'm stronger than most, and this is a general event. I picked the bucket. I was like, fuck, this is heavy. I hope there's no cameras around of me struggling to grab a hold of this thing.
No, I just had my wife yelling at me because she finished it faster. She's like, hurry up. I'm like, I can't.
She beat you right at the end.
Yeah, I'm going to roll down. I'm going to pass out and roll down. That's how I'm going to get down here.
The sandbags carrying it up the hill, that was tough.
Yeah.
The rope climbs were the things that got me the most. I thought I'd be able to handle rope climbs
I get that.
But I don't ever rope climb with soaking wet hands that have been cold, and then you grab the rope
on
and
a very
it's
thin rope.
Yeah, it's
not a big thick rope.
There was not much.
Well, I did that American Ninja Warrior TV show, so I've trained.
I saw that in your bio.
Yeah, the 3 years.
Dude,
I'm now retired.
what's the process to getting to
on
American,
the
show?
Yeah, you submit a video, man. Honestly, when I first did it, we came back from Costa Rica. My wife was bored, I guess, and submitted this thing. And he got 80% done. Didn't have a video, so it's like, hey, you got to film a video. And I thought it was Wipeout, that show where they'd laugh at you in Chinese language.
I love that show.
Right? It's hilarious.
It's funny.
And so I was like, I don't know. So I put the video out, and I completely forgot about it. February-ish, I get a call like, hey, in 30 days, you're about to go on this TV show. So that was 240 pounds. I'm not meant for this show.
You're not the classic American Ninja Warrior guy.
And went down there, man, and I killed it. I was now the first former NFL athlete to hit a buzzer on the show. I've made it from city finals to city qualifiers, or city qualifiers to finals 3 years running. And
so you don't just start on the TV show. There's a process.
No,
to
you
get
start on a TV show.
Oh, really?
You just show up.
Sweet.
Yeah, they did 100-something people. They put you out there. You get one look at it. You go back in a holding pen. They call your name, and you got one shot. And you.
Wait, so it's there's 100 people out there, and then they show the top 12 or whatever, whoever did extremely well or extremely bad.
It's TV too. So they like my life story. So there's weight with that. So that was something that was cool for them to put on. I got they call it a home package. So they send people to your house, a whole expose that was aired. So I got a good 5-minute block on there, which was pretty cool. But yeah, man, it was a cool experience. And then after my elbow started hurting because my body's way too big for that stuff, I was like, I think we'll pass it. So now I do a master's track, old man track.
Yeah. Dude, I feel like we made it the other day. Someone tagged us on Instagram. So we run a program called the 1 Ton Challenge. It's basically a super total squat, clean, jerk, or snatch, clean, jerk, squat, deadlift, bench press. Add them all up, and our goal is 2,000 pounds for males. And someone did the 1-ton challenge, videoed it, and that's their audition tape to go on to the Titan Games with The Rock.
Ooh,
I was like,
smart.
Someone thinks this is cool enough that this is their audition tape. We made it.
Yeah. They just did season 2 casting. I got an email for that.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm not going to do it, though.
Why not?
'Cause honestly, I got a bad shoulder. The ninja's easy. I can hang, right? And but when I got hurt in the NFL, I tore my shoulder. So any pressing, like I have no upper chest, like it kills my shoulder. So that whole thing, like it'd be nice, but if I'm going to lift things, like I'd be out there looking like a baby girl.
Yeah.
Was that like one big catastrophic injury for your shoulder, or is that just like repeat injuries?
It was
one big thing?
Yeah, it was 2008, playing with the Pittsburgh Steelers against the Philadelphia Eagles. Some guy, like it was a toss play. I went outside, I tripped on one of my teammates, went down, and the guy, the lineman from the other team, jumped on my back as I'm getting up. Popped my shoulder in. I saw it on video. Shoulder went in and out, tore it. I didn't even know. Like, can you play through, like, just, you don't even know your body's hurt. It wasn't even until the next day I even realized there was something wrong with it. And then, yeah, man, sure enough, career ending, season ending, and it was, different world.
The NFL is so wild. Like, I talk about this a decent amount, but when you're growing up and you're like playing tackle football and it's fun, but when you get in the NFL, it's like real men that really understand aggression and anger and testosterone, and it's there's like a level of aggression that I've gotten to in my life, but the NFL seems like it's miles down the road on
it is.
just I'm going to kill you right now. Like John Welborn, I watched a video of him talking about the NFL. He's like, I have a weapon on my head. It's a helmet, and I'm trying to put it through you.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember Ray Lewis in an interview was like, what do you think about when you tackle people? And like the interviewer was like happy, nice. She clearly was in an office setting.
Yeah.
And he was like everything about him changed. He was like, I want to take your soul. And I was like, oh, my God.
Yeah.
I'm terrified through the TV. This is so scary.
Because imagine this. If you go out there, because I played linebacker also, if you don't have that, you get eaten alive.
Yeah, someone's going to do it to you.
So it's a different level of, like, just expenditure. So when guys come out, like, legit, we're a little bit crazy, man. Like, it took a while for me to, like, calm down, like, enter to society. And, like, when you make me mad, I can't hit you anymore. You know?
You had this outlet for a long time.
It was gone, and it just got ripped from me. So, yeah, man, it's the football world is – and what's even worse is, like, you get just a constant level of discomfort. Like, people think you're uncomfortable. Imagine every day going to work and your boss telling you, hey, if you don't do it right, we're going to get rid of you.
Yeah.
Or you got to go home, and your family's not going to be able to eat. So, like, when I'm going against you, it's not just the aggression. It's like, if I beat you, you can't feed your family.
Yeah.
It's a different world.
It's
like,
one of the things, what's the HBO show, Hard Knocks, that I love. I love watching. It's terrible, probably, but I love watching when the last day of cuts happen.
Yeah.
Because all the kids come in, and they're kids.
Yeah.
But the coach has been through this so many times that cutting people is just a day. And it's like they come in and they know what's going on. Like, if I got called here, but like the kid's like, shit, I don't have a job. What am I going to do tomorrow? And the coach's like, hey, you were great. You're awesome. But I'm sorry. You got to go. Peace out.
I think the whole life is over.
And it's what it feels like. Us Redskins, we were talking about Tuesday's a cut day. And my wife and I, my teammate just got cut, played with him in Oregon. So we're just having a dinner, like seeing him off. And cuts, I think, has to be done by like 6 p.m. on Tuesday. We're having a conversation at dinner talking about how he got cut. He's going to go somewhere else. I'm like, well, glad I didn't get the call, right? I go to the bathroom like 5 minutes later. 5:58, I get a call. Hey, Trucks, we're letting you go. Come in tomorrow with your playbook. Like, and I just moved my wife there, just moved my son there. Like, so I just signed a lease. Like, dude, it was just, but it's like that, man.
When you have your family with you and all of that, I mean, what is that process coming home? I imagine getting cut sucks, but you just move your family out there.
Yeah.
Where's the next step?
You don't know. I mean, first you got to go tell your wife.
Yeah, that sucks. That's a hard step.
Like, lose her husband. You know, like it really does, bro. Really, and then like it's just a defeating
the loser
feeling.
Husband. Good. That's a brutal
right?
one.
And then you got to just figure it out. And I mean, that's why I think for me in my life now, I navigate things incredibly well because I've dealt with craziness like that. But you just honestly, you can't dwell on it. You just got to go. Because the longer you sit there, like bills pile up, you're stuck. So we just came home. Smart, I guess. Luckily, we had bought a house. It wasn't smart. We bought it in 06, right at the top of the market crashing. So we had this house to go back to.
Genius.
Yeah, right.
We knew it was coming. That's why we bought it that time.
Yeah, exactly. And then, sure enough, went home and then just figured out life, man. And Yeah, I mean, I ended up getting picked up a few weeks later by the Steelers. Was with them until obviously the next year got my shoulder torn. But yeah, man, when you get cut, bro, it's just this world changing. And you don't get. People think you get paid. Like, you only get paid when you're playing week by week. So you can be there from the end of the season before February all the way through OTAs and training camp and off season, through all of it, and then right before the first game they can be like, go home, and you don't get anything.
Brutal.
Yeah, you could have a $50 million contract, nothing.
Dude, regarding the comment about being a quote unquote loser husband, that's obviously not true, but that's something that people that's a common thing for people to experience. Like, something negative happens, or they perceive to be negative, and then you get down on yourself and you start saying those types of things to yourself. Like, how long did it take you to work through that?
Dude, I mean, in that moment I was still a football player, right? But then when I tore my shoulder, that's a whole different conversation, because then my actual career was over. And it's from 2008. It probably took me a good 5 years to really figure it out, because you try to find yourself in other stuff. The girls would be like, I gotta go find myself. Like, legit try to figure out who I am. It's different for us guys. All I know is how to work hard football, right? And so unfortunately, I neglected everything else but what I had to build to make myself feel great again. So I had this gym, like, that's where I spent my time.
Yeah.
But my wife was at home with my brand new twins. I had my son is older, and then I'm just at the gym, like, literally there from like 6 a.m. until 10 p.m.
Yeah.
My head is I'm working for the family, but her head is like, you aren't even part of the family right now.
Yeah.
And I was trying to find myself, and in doing so, I ended up losing the marriage, losing my family, and everything disappeared. And it wasn't until probably 2013. I kind of popped my head up, like, I got to figure this dang thing out.
Yeah.
So just really sinking back to finding out, this is the hardest thing, where everything had to dial back to my fault. Because it's difficult for you to see a problem and take ownership, because then you got to deal with the pain of it. And so I didn't want to blame, myself for why my wife had an affair, man. Broke my heart. I didn't want to take any blame for that, which there's part of it in the sense of her choice was her choice, but the two of us got to that choice, right?
Yeah.
I didn't want to take blame for the business being bad. I'm a football guy. I'm great, right? I didn't want to take blame for being a bad dad who wasn't present. I didn't want to take blame, and so because of that, I kept doing the same actions and kept that as part of my life.
Yeah.
And when I popped my head up, I was like, dude, you got to change stuff. Then I took ownership. It sucked, but I got my power back. But then I gave myself permission to fix things. And that's how my life has massively turned around since.
Well, your story starts significantly before that. And the talking to Marion, we have this beautiful house, so I had the inside track. I said, look, just tell me the people that I need to talk to. I don't need to go through the whole list. I said, just tell me the coolest kids. We'll have them to the house. It'll be great. And you and Eric Burns were the only two people she sent me to talk to.
Oh, nice.
And your story kind of starts when you were 3 years old. She mentioned that, I guess, getting into the foster system and kind of remembering your mom not being there. Can you take us back to a little bit of that beginning? Because I feel like there's some threads to the story of feeling like a bad dad or being in the foster system that kind of create the stories and the actions that lead to a big reckoning of
100%.
Having to take ownership.
I think we all have programming from our past, right?
Yeah.
If you think about how we operate, even the TV show Westworld.
Yes. Heard of it, but I've not
right.
seen
So
it.
it's like you have these bodies, and the programming creates the individual. And
I don't know if I was ready for that show.
That's a crazy show, dude. It was. I mean, part of me was like, that'd be weird. I don't want to go kill anybody, unless I got there and I could. I don't know. Maybe I would.
Is there consequences?
So I can? You're allowing me?
But no, it's kind of thing I looked at, like, we all get programmed from the past, and we don't really know what's going on, and so we just operate a lot of some outdated software. And so that was my, the spinning wheel of death, we'll call it, was in 2011 or 2008 when it all took place. And so what it was is, if you go back to my beginning, 3 years old, put in the foster care system, me and my 3 siblings. So I started my life feeling like I didn't matter. Like, my own mom, when you want to love you, doesn't even, care, gives you away. And then the foster care system, back then, you were what's called a paycheck, which means that if you're with this family, they get paid to have you, but as long as you don't die, everything's okay in the world. So what that meant is, I got beaten, I got starved.
That's a low standard.
It sucks, and there's no TV, media, there's no phones back then, and so there's families that get put in this chicken pen, forced to chase chickens to catch a chicken to be able to have food that night, to earn it. And there's one family, they put me in a shopping cart, pushed me down hills, really weird stuff, just between the age of 3 and 6.
Jesus.
It's heinous human beings that just didn't care. 6 years old to get picked up and put in a family, which is my family to this day, which is
that's really strange. You would think somebody that's interested in the foster care system, they're not looking at, or a parent that is adopting foster kids is not looking for a subject matter to abuse.
Yeah, I think at the time though, I don't know how new it was, but now people have a heart. I think back then, legitimately just didn't care.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a time where, like, I actually at one point with one of the families, because there's 5, I distinctly remember all of them. Like the layouts of the house is just weird. But one house, like I was there for like a week, and the end of the week the kids were going to Disneyland. The whole week I'm excited. I'm gonna be able to go to Disneyland for the first time. As a little kid, you're excited. It's Disneyland.
Yeah.
And then I remember like Disneyland, like they're walking out of the house, going to the van, and as I'm going out, there's a van that they have to go to Disneyland, and there's the Black Crown Victoria to take me to a new house, and nobody told me.
Oh.
So I mean, just walking out, I feel it now, like just the weight of like crap, and you don't know where you're going. Like you don't know if you're going to a good house or a bad house. Like so like this was my programming. Like this is where a lot of my like root of instability, lack of trust, like a lot of it, and having a reason to create blame for everybody else. Like it was all your fault. Because that's how I started. You know, it wasn't my fault. This little kid getting thrown around. Yeah, man. And then at 6 years old, got put into my family, and then the dynamic there is it's an all-white family, really, really poor. So I make this dumb joke that I grew up poor white trash because we were like super poor, man. I'm a black guy, if you guys don't know. But yeah, man. So it was just a situation like a drunk.
What's it like growing up like white trash?
Hey, it is. I got all the benefits of both.
I'm an expert in it.
I got the fun things. I have a weird perspective on like racial stuff. Because I grew up in a situation where like, be it like, you know, we'll call it white, but being really poor white, like their life wasn't great. Yeah. And I'm the black kid on that. It's like, oh man, double whammy. You know, so it's a lot of weird, fun, weird, crazy jokes my family has. But yeah, it's dysfunction. It's family, right? It's just what it is. And
you know,
so I grew up
throughout this whole thing, like, I mean, you seem to have a pretty lighthearted, like fun, like you're able to joke around. You're very playful. Were you always like that, even back then?
No.
Or you could kind of brush this off, or did you develop that later?
No, I think I had a desire I have ADHD, so I talk a lot. So I was always a kid talking. I don't know if I always had a light heart, though. It's come recently from a sense of, like, sheer gratitude for where I could be. Because what people don't know is statistically, if you look at any prison in America, 75% of the inmates are former foster kids. Like, that's where I should have possibly been. If you look at the homeless population, 50% of the homeless population in America are former foster kids. So, like, numerically, statistically, like, I'm really not supposed to be doing very much. And so I have a great deal of gratitude for my adoptive mom and that family who loved me through my crazy. Like, I was, at the first week there, I broke all her lamps. Like, I get in trouble at school. I was a klepto at school. It was weird. Just all these weird things. I was hoarding food because I didn't really get fed much. Yeah. And so she just was like, loved me through it all, weirdly. And she was one of the big catalysts to me kind of like opening my heart, because it took me 8 years to let them love me. Like, that's when I got adopted. You know, I for the whole time wanted to be with my real mom, but she was a horrible human. I didn't know. You just want to be with that person. And we have that in life as adults. There's people we want to be with that we know aren't good for us, but, like, we're addicted to that pain, that stress. It's so odd. But at a young age, man. And so at 14, I let them love me. I severed what's called parental rights, could finally get adopted. And then I got to hit people without getting in trouble, man. I got to go play some football.
Yeah, I was actually wondering while you were going through that, like, what is your relationship with anger and aggression growing up in that system?
A lot of fights in school.
Yeah.
I think in 6th grade I got 16 referrals or like 16 fights or something crazy. Like I was an angry little bit. Like I was just always poking fun and getting in trouble. When I was in 6th grade, they didn't allow me to go to the 6th grade camping trip. Not because I was in trouble, but I was a flight risk. I was a kid that might just cause a lot of problems and burn the place down. They just like, you cannot go. And to this day, I'm still talking about it. It still eats me up a little bit.
Yeah.
But I get it. I mean, if I was the teacher, I wouldn't have let me go as a grown man now. But yeah, the lighthearted stuff, it never took place till later. And the football anger, I was a great outlet. Like I never had it. I couldn't play organized sports because my real mom wouldn't let me. So when I got adopted, now I could play. Yeah. And that was the big thing, is having aggression.
So your real mom, your biological mom, was still in the picture, even though you were adopted. So when she left you at 3, how frequently was she in your life, kind of through childhood?
Just enough to mess it up, man.
Just enough to cause the problems and leave.
Just enough. So she was like this anchor that I wanted to be with, and so you don't really realize at the time she's not great. And so we had these visitations she's supposed to go to in a town called Martinez. And so we go to visitation. I have 3 siblings, all different dad. They have the same dad. I have a different dad. And she would never show up, but their dad would. So I'd sit there and just watch them play with him all the time, and like I'd cry. Yeah. There's no one. I don't have my dad. I don't know who he is. You know, my mom, she's MIA, and she's legitimately loopy. And so every time the visitation would happen. Like when she didn't show up, they got longer between. So if she's not showing up every week, like let's just make it every 2, and then every month, and then every 2, and then every 3, and then every 6. So it got wider and wider. But every time she'd miss, which was like 95% of the time, I get a call later on that day. This happened up till 14. Later on with some crazy excuses of why she didn't make it. And she's what's called a pathological liar. So she'd make excuses. At one point, she owned Microsoft. She owned Apple. She was an astronaut, Mensa member. Like, I kid you not, the craziest things you could think of. And as a kid, I'm like, oh, awesome. I'll get it. It's okay. Next time. Just next time I'll see you. And then she'd end the call with, pack a bag and wait by the window. I'm going to come pick you up. We're going to drive off together.
Ugh.
And, dude, as a little kid, like, I consistently – I'd sit there, I'd pack a bag, I'd wait, and like the street we lived on, it was like next to a Jack in the Box, so a lot of cars would drive by. So imagine every time you see lights, your heart races, and then it sinks. By the end of the night, I'd cry myself to sleep. Up until like 14, I would wet the bed every night, only on those nights. Couldn't stop it. And sure enough, like it was this weird anchor. So she wasn't a picture, but like even that, like it was a really weird route. And so the good part that's come out of it is when I get into a relationship because of a connection to a woman, like because of that weird tie, like I'm super incredibly faithful. Yeah. And I know it's not even that I desire anything. I just want to make sure that relationship's great. So it benefits that sense.
When you are when you're a kid, your self-worth and your idea of identity and clearly this plays out in what you're doing now. But do you think about, in hindsight, kind of like what your self-worth was, being kind of kicked around a lot and struggling with that?
MIA, man. I didn't have any.
Yeah.
You feel like a dog.
Yeah.
You don't feel like you matter to anybody. Like the people are supposed to, care for you. They don't. And so, self-worth was non-existent for me. It was a very, like, I used to have this, like, I didn't feel like I mattered at school because I was always in trouble. So it was my fault. I would act up, and every teacher I can picture from, like, kindergarten to 6th grade in my face screaming at me, like, because I was just that bad. And then at the house, in between Bellshaw Elementary and the house was this tunnel. I'd walk to school back and forth, and I would pace that tunnel as long as I could because it was the only place I felt comfortable. And it was a middle of a freeway. Like, this is where transients are, and that's where I felt comfortable, because I didn't feel like I mattered at home. I didn't have any worth there. I didn't feel like I mattered at school. Like, I was a floater. And so, I for a lot of years expected to do nothing.
This story hits a lot harder because I have a kid now, and I couldn't imagine her going through that.
It's tough, man.
Like, it would be very, very just kind of seeing how she develops and in a somewhat normal home, I guess the how you would describe it. But the idea that even at such a young age, like being passed around and not really knowing where that is, but also seeing how those anchors like need to be there and how the stability of a kid's life really kind of plays out. When you got to football and found sports, was that something that you just really grabbed a hold of as something that you could control, where you were important to provide a little stability?
That was it's the first place I found self-worth.
Yeah.
Because I had it in the family I was with, but it's always this root in the back of my head like, oh, it's not my family, I'm just here, But football for the first time was like, I remember AJW, Junior Wolverines was the team name. And I was a receiver, and I was horrible. Garbage. I couldn't catch a cold, man. I was slow. And all my teammates, like, just smashing on me because I'm the new guy. But there's one play where, like, the quarterback threw it up, and, like, somehow it, like, landed in my arms on accident, and I caught the ball. And I remember, like, getting up and looking back, and the crowd was just cheering. It was the first time I was like, man, I matter.
Yeah.
And the world, for the first time, told me, hey, like, you matter in a way. And so I did get addicted to that feeling.
Yeah.
Like, I wanted it. I found out later it's not the best thing to be driven off of.
Yeah.
But for that time, that gave me, like, oh, I want to do this. And so that was the push I needed to get over being horrible at the game. Because I think we all have something we want to do, but at first we sucked. Like, I'm sure when you guys started this, you sucked, right? But over time,
still working on it.
Yeah, right. You figure it out because, like, what? I'm willing to go through it to get whatever that is. And so, unfortunately, a lot of people, their identity slows down. Like, they cut it off before they get to that point of, like, success. And for me, I'm thankful that that's been part of who I am. Is I just pushed. And so I want to do this thing. I'm going to push into it. I leaned in. I went to the craziness to try to figure out how to be better, how to be faster, how to be stronger, and turn into something special.
When you think about kind of your relationship with the idea of love and not having it as a kid, but then finding it in an external way with having crowds cheering for you, playing football, being good at sports, that's also kind of a smoke and mirrors type of love.
Yeah, it is.
When did you start to maybe break down some of those walls, or understand that just because they're cheering for you, that's not real.
Yeah.
That's a fake thing that's happening because I'm good at football, instead of like a real self-love or having a really tight-knit circle that you can trust.
Yeah, I mean, first I had the moment of realization when they didn't love me was like the next year, my freshman year of high
Every
school.
time I dropped the ball, they didn't love me anymore.
Yeah, that's what happened, man. My like fourth game, I had like 3 games amazing in freshman year. My fourth game, I think it was, I dropped like 3 touchdowns, and everybody just butterfingers, all the names. Like, so the world took all that back from me. And so I learned pretty quickly, like, you can't live off that. When I finally truly grabbed love was when I had my first kid. Because it was like that, and I don't think you really know like how much a parent loves you till you have a kid.
Yeah.
It's this weird, creepy, like undescribable like connection.
Just want
so
to squeeze the thing so much.
Right? Yeah,
Fucking head's gonna
don't
pop
kill the
off
bunny.
one day.
And so
I thought you loved me. That's why I ripped your head off.
Yeah.
I loved you so much.
I know. I get it. That's how
Yeah.
I felt. Let me be honest. Going back, I was like, I went from being like a college, athlete that was playing sports, and I was a dad now. Like I was a dad that played sports, went to school. That's my perspective, and so that was the first time like I really like anchored down to loving something, and I think it came to like realizing that love is an emotion from an action. Like I hadn't given the actions of love to many, therefore I wasn't receiving it. You have to give to get, and so when I was finally giving, I was like, oh, it comes back.
Dude, you're a college athlete and you have a kid. Were you married at the time?
No, we were engaged. I was the weird guy. Proposed
Did you go
my
to
fiancé.
school?
Yeah, I went to school, man. I graduated with a degree in kinesiology.
I feel like there's no time.
Yeah, there wasn't. I'm telling you, my schedule with my fiance,
Especially
at the time,
D1 football at Oregon, you guys are practicing 12 hours a day.
We were, and I was still killing
your whole
it, bro.
life.
I was getting down. I mean, academically, I was still doing well in school. I've got a weird brain. Like, I don't do homework, but I can sit and listen, and I'll be able to regurgitate everything. It's a weird. So I would go to class. As long as I went to class, I think I missed 2 classes in all 4 years.
Yeah.
So long as I went to class, I would get by. I'm not going to be the guy saying like, "Oh, academics sound." No, I was academically eligible, but I wasn't like balling.
Yeah.
But then
2.5.
my wife
You're
was
good.
though. I was like 2.7. No lie. I was like 2.7.
I'm
bro.
right with you. I was the opposite. I never went to class, but I could read the book.
Yeah, no, I couldn't do the book stuff. I don't. I fall asleep when I read books.
I act like getting like a 2.7 is something to be proud of. Like, oh yeah, you can do it. No, it's not. It's nothing to
close.
be proud of, but you can do it.
It's close to a 3.0.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. But that's kind of my thing, man. And we balanced it out. My wife is amazing. She graduated summa cum laude with her master's.
Damn.
With a baby.
Get it.
And a guy who was playing football most of the time. Beast, right?
That's savage.
Rue, man, she's a beast, man. I love her to death. That was kind of our navigation of college. So college was a tricky thing, but it's funny if you look at pictures from us in college. Like we had this friend's house we would go to. We kind of like wouldn't go to like clubs a lot, but we just go to the friend's house and have some drinks. And there's like multiple pictures of my son as a baby with like a bottle of Hennessy next to his head. So it's so bad. I mean, we never ever did anything drinking, and I didn't really drink. I think I drank like 5 times in college. Like. So just more so hanging out. But we had fun, man. I enjoyed my college experience.
Yeah.
Did you swing the other way with your kid, where instead of like being neglectful, having experienced that yourself, like did you swing the other way and like you're like overbearing with how much you like showered your kid with love, where they're like, "Fucking dad, leave me alone. Like I need to do my own thing. Yes, I know you love me, but let me out of here."
He does it to this day, man. I just left this morning. Like he's 14. I gave him a kiss on the forehead. He's like, "Dad," like doesn't want.
On, Dad.
So I never want my kids to question whether or not I love them. Like ever. In fact, our kids, it's so normal in our house. Like I'll be walking and they'll be on the other side of the house like, "Love you, Dad," like, "Love you too." So it's a very common thing. I hate the stories where I hear people like, "I didn't hear my dad tell me he loved me until I was like 35. Like, damn.
Yeah.
So I think that, like you said, because of what took place, I just choose to do opposite now. And that's really how I run like my life and my perspective, especially in parenting. Like I'm still amazed. Like I get to wake up and my own blood children are in my house. Sounds so simple, but like I'm dead serious.
Yeah.
It's a weird, like, cool feeling.
Well, you mentioned earlier that you and your wife had I guess some divorce back together.
Mm-hmm.
What was a little bit of that scenario, and where did that find you? What time in your life was that?
That was around 11, man. So this is where I came home to figure out who I was. Big identity crisis, right? One of the
right
biggest,
after the NFL.
Right after the NFL. It was like the major one because I'd spent this thing, 12 years developing me, and then me was no longer me.
The identity thing.
Gone. And I tried to pour into something to rebuild Anthony, and it was the gym. I got to find some way to make my name powerful again. And really, it was just me trying to, stay close to not going broke. Like that's pretty much the goal. Like just don't go broke this month. And in doing so, like I neglected it. I did become that dad. It was neglecting his wife and neglecting his kids. And what ended up happening is I sort of say like me doing that together, we got our relationship to a point where she just wasn't fulfilled and she needed things, and she sought it outside of the marriage. Broke my heart, dude. So now I'm going through, I've lost my relationship. I've lost my family. I've lost my successful business. I had no name there. I've lost the one thing, football, that made me me. And I legit went into a fog. Like when you get like the whirlwind of life and you can't manage it, like we get overwhelmed, you go foggy. And I was foggy for a while. And I remember going to a UFC fight with my buddies at my buddy Derek's house, actually. My best friend was there, and but I'm told I just sat there for like 3 hours staring at a screen, which is probably normal for me at that time, because on top of this, I'm still running a gym. So I have no happy, but my job is to come and make you happy every day.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pulling it from nowhere, so I'm drained everywhere, and I go home to arguments. It just was crazy. And I remember walking out of the UFC fight. It was like 9 o'clock at night, and my buddy walks over to the car as I'm walking out, and he stops me. He says, "Hey, man, I see that you're not you." He's like, I got a realization, that I need to tell you. He says, "This is your reality." It's like, hey, you need to realize that this is what you got going on. I feel like you haven't accepted it, or whatever it was, whatever our conversations were. And the words of like, "this is your reality," just slammed on me.
Yeah.
And I think what we don't know is the brain, if you look at like, science, like it can actually sometimes distinguish between emotional and physical pain. It feels the same. And I didn't know at the time, but like that, it's probably what led to, but like it was just a pain I could not stop. It was like this weird, and so I just couldn't stop crying. I couldn't breathe. And I sent a text to my friends and family, said, "Please tell my kids who their father was." And drove off looking for rat poison. It was thankfully late enough. Parked the car somewhere. GPS, cops found me. I snapped out of it. Brought me home, and like that was a journey back to crazy. And I think for me, one of the biggest things was one of my buddies had come up to me after the fact. It's like, "Dude, when I found out what had happened, everybody's looking for you." Because when I drove home, and there's a house, my house, 40 people outside that are all like ground central trying to find Anthony. And it was like the weight of shame, man. I can't even explain to you right now. Like just
Wait, how did all these people get together? How long were you gone?
Maybe 3 hours.
And 40 people showed up to your house?
Yeah, man. Weird.
You have friends, bro.
I do, and I think this is what no one told
If I'm
me.
gone 3 hours, there's like kids napping, wife napping.
Yeah.
House is quiet.
It was different. I think that's what it was. And
Do you feel like they knew what you were going through, and that you were kind of on watch before?
No, I think
This is following you sending out the text?
This is right out. Yeah, I sent the text.
Yeah.
I drove off. I drove to Stockton, of all places, and then I sat. I drive by whenever I go out to Stockton. I drive by that same gas station, right? So I know the place was at, but it was like a few hours later. No one knew where I was at because I just took off. And yeah, man. So I came back, and like you said, it was like people had loved me, and I didn't really see it. I've always just been like a joyous. I think the joy came from when like I had kids and I had football, and I learned how to be happy. Like I've always not wanted to be in an internal negative space, so I just choose to be happy. So people just around me and were happy, man. And what ended up happening, a buddy was like, "Dude," he says, "I felt like I almost lost a hero." A guy I played high school football with, a guy who worked at the gym with me, and I was like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Man, at the end of the day, like we all here, we know what you've gone through in life. We know your story, and what you've accomplished and who you are. Like you're a lot of inspiration to a lot of people." And it was like the first time I realized like I had been accidentally living a life that had been helping people. So maybe all this craziness was for something.
Yeah.
And so I then purposely tried, like, all right, what if I try to do something positive? What if I try to be a better guy? And so it was kind of like that start, still a journey to be able to figure out, like, a lot of these things I'd put on were partly my fault, right? Because this place I'm in, it wasn't because of anybody else but with me. Like, it was how I handled the situation at hand. Mm-hmm. It may not have been my fault, but it was my responsibility to navigate this stuff.
Yeah.
And so I had to go back a few years, figure things out. And you asked about the relationship. A lot of it was blaming her. Your fault. How could you do this to me? And that's where I wanted to go, because I don't got to take any weight, right? You can blame because it's your fault, so I don't got to have any weight for this. When you feel bad enough, then I'll feel better, which is an odd way for us to operate, especially with somebody you love.
Yeah.
And so, I put that weight on my wife, and so when we were separate, we both did our thing, but she got to the point where she was drinking and partying and everything, and I got to a point where I started realizing that the life that I was living of having multiple partners was not one that I enjoyed. Like, it was not who I was at my core. I felt like if my son did this, I'd have loss of respect for him. So I couldn't do it myself. So I remember I woke up one day and I was like, I'm done with women for a while. And in that time, I also realized that, like, she wasn't the best mom, and she'll tell you that. But the thing is, it's like, how do I make her a great mom for my kids? Because I wanted my kids to have. I didn't want to have, like you said, I didn't want that to happen. How do I have my kid not have a mom like mine? And part of it was like I gotta plant a seed and then give her space, because what I've been doing is placing a lot of shame on her and then hoping for her to be better. It's like putting a board on a brand new freshly potted plant. Like, it's not going to grow. So I realized, like, if I can take this off, because I've now at this point realized, like, damn, like, a lot of this stuff was because of how I acted, how I operated, how I didn't give her what she needed. Whether it was what I thought she needed or not, she needed different.
Yeah.
I didn't show up. And so I took my blame. I let her know, like, hey, here's my weight. I'm letting you know that some of these things, I helped lead us to that place. I forgive you for what you did. Because also when people do stuff to hurt you, I don't think it's always malicious. We feel like it was, but a lot of it's like they're doing something for them.
They're lashing out of some sort.
And it's not even always lashing out. Like, she was needing a need had to be fulfilled.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There was no thought of me.
Yeah.
It was like it was almost just the pure selfishness of what created that, but I was the byproduct. My pain was. So when I got that realization of, like, she was honestly kind of doing the best she could, hanging in there for that damn long. Mm-hmm. I got to a point of the forgiveness. I got to the point of I understood my place, and I gave her that space. And she then had the board lifted off, and she grew. So she found faith, which is amazing, because I'd always tried to have to be part of our family, but she grew up differently, so it wasn't her thing. And then also, like, I was able to celebrate what she had done in her life, the mom she was becoming. And then she invited me, like, 3 years ago on this trip to Costa Rica to get away from, like, our area. Because when you're in, like, an area you grew up in, everybody knows you're dirt, man.
Yeah.
And so she invited me to Costa Rica. We went out there, and it was pretty much like, hey, just you go to your spot, I'll have over here, just so we can take the kids on a vacation and be able to have some fun. And that was where I got to. The way I put it is, I got to meet somebody for the first time that I'd known for 18 years. And it was like this moment where, like, she was different, and I was different conversation. And then when we came back, it was like, let's try.
Yeah. Again. Was there a part of that? You guys you guys were together. You had a baby when you were 20.
Yeah.
This is many years later.
Yeah.
You went through college football to the NFL, where you guys just stopped checking in and being like, oh, hey, this is where I'm at right now. Like, life is moving so fast that one day, 10 years later, you wake up and you're like, I don't even know who you are anymore.
Nah.
I think massive life events going on.
Yeah, a lot of them for her, too. I mean, she was going through stuff, she wasn't just hanging around. Like, the relationship fell apart. She had a different dad. We had twins at one point, so a lot of stuff happened. And I think the journey for us was we grew up together. We were 16 we got together.
Yeah.
I mean, we were kids. So when we get to the age of, like, 25, I don't know who I am without you.
Totally.
And if I always have that in the back of my head, like, as much as it sounds odd right now, knowing what we've got now, what we've created, if I knew back then I would have to go through all this to get here, I'd do it again.
Yeah.
It sounds hella odd, but, like, I would legitimately do it again, because we've got something now that, like, I couldn't put in words how great it is. Like, it's strong, it's anchored, it's not perfect. We argue. I mean, that's just natural, right? But, like, our kids have a solid home. Yeah. They have a base of just who we are. They feel loved. I feel loved with her. I feel more free in this relationship than I've ever felt in my life, because we don't have to worry about chasing chicks and texting. Like, I can worry about changing the world.
I couldn't imagine being single.
It's weird.
It would be fucking awful, trying to keep up with all that. Texting people all the time, feeling like I'm obligated to do something. Fisher's on Bumble last night, and I was like, how do you do that? It seems like so much.
Yeah, it's work.
It
was work,
so
dude.
much work.
I got, like, part of the stress point is, like, you're texting, like, 3 or 4 different people, and I'm not saying this is the way to go. This is what was going on in my life. And it's, like, just stressful, because I'm trying to work, and she wants me to talk to her, and I want to go here, and I got to, and, like, I don't want to, and I just, like, cut it all off.
Too much.
And so my focus is pulled away from doing impactful work, and now, because of where my heart's at, to help other people navigate these shifts in their life, like, because I'm anchored there, I can give here.
Yeah,
it's better for the world.
What is a little bit of that process for? You mentioned the idea of, like, success is just a part of who you are.
Yeah.
And getting people to break up with some of those old stories and creating this new identity of a successful person that just you're going to find success because it's your destiny versus.
Well, I don't know if it's like destiny. It's more of like it's second nature. There's things that we do that are just normal. Like there's people that look at you guys like, how do you do that? And it's just like, that's what we do. It was built. Like, it was designed. Your programming, at some point upgraded. Like, you took your operating software and made it current. And so for me, what I do, I have a process called See, Shift, Sustain. It's actually a framework I walk clients through. But the first stage is the one that we all go through. Is like, you have to see the actual problems. Like, for me, my see phase of this change was back when I had to see that a lot of the situations in my relationship were my fault. I had to see it. And with that pain comes a clarity. It's like, all right, now I see how I got here. Now I see what I got to do. And then now that I've seen it, it's like, okay, cool, I can now work on that. I give myself permission to work on it. So a lot of us, and it's crazy, we're like, well, I don't know what's wrong. Just talk to the people who are already yelling at you, who are already arguing with you. because they're telling you, you just don't want to take it in.
Yeah.
Like it's right there. Swallow your pride, take it in, because see what they're seeing for the first time. And then from there, once you have clarity of like, all right, I can move past, a lot of people, like they don't dream at full speed is what I call it. So if you think about like it's beautiful open, desert, and you got the nice, let's say a Ferrari, hit the gas, throttle, your heart's beat, you can open up and just go. But what if you put a speed bump in the middle of that, or a wall, or a crazy left turn, right? So a lot of people do is they get going in the Ferrari and then they put a speed bump of, oh, I don't know how to do that, or I don't got any money, or I've never been there before, or yeah, but I don't have enough time. And so you start dreaming, but you start throwing your own walls and speed bumps in. So for me, the beginning is first, see what you got to work on. Secondly, stop making stupid excuses and find, like I usually tell people, ask somebody else if they were to dream for you, what do they think you're capable of? And they'll tell you something you never thought of. It scares the dog crap out of you. And that's what you probably might try. Like at least that direction.
Yeah.
But now, because they don't have the speed bumps that you have. You're putting your own in. They don't have them. They're just like, oh, try this, and this. Like, oh, all right, it's scary a little bit.
Yeah.
But you start a journey, and then it starts to unfold, and the more you do work, the more it becomes who you are. I believe what you create creates you.
Yeah.
Did you? I'm totally going to steal that exercise, by the way.
Do it.
Yeah.
Take it. I do it all the time. You can steal it. Do whatever you want with it, bro.
He's the first person I'm going to ask. So you ponder that over there.
I will.
While we talk.
I'll be distracted for the rest of the interview thinking about my answer. When you look back at your NFL or collegiate football career, do you see a lot of the process that you teach now that you were just kind of naturally doing, maybe without thinking about it as a system?
Yeah.
But in order to create success and play football at the highest levels, you have to have these kind of pillars in this foundation, whether you know you're doing it or not.
It's got to be there, and that's what I call like the Midas touch. Some people just have it. Like it's just like everything they touch turns to gold. Richard Branson, 250 businesses. It's not because he has different tools. It's just he's a different person. Like he's a different identity, right? And so it's his second nature to do certain things.
That's my favorite thing in the whole world is being next to people like that.
Yeah.
That when they enter the room, you just go, oh, that's the guy. Everyone knows that's the guy. It's so obvious because the way they carry themselves. And
It's
you
different.
go, I trained with John Cena for 4 years. And you can go to all the schooling you want. You can have all the degrees. I'll give them all to you. You don't know what it's like to sit under a squat rack with that guy for 4 years. You don't understand what he does every day until you're in it. If you don't know what it's like when he walks in the room and how he makes everyone feel, you don't take your degree. I don't need it. I've watched that. That's insane.
Yeah.
Like when you stand next to people, like C.T. Fletcher's another guy. When people see C.T. Fletcher, they just love him.
Yeah.
And it's because he makes them feel amazing.
Yeah.
And that Midas touch or whatever it is, it doesn't exist. That's a skill that they've developed because they've been practicing. Like it's not that they're not authentic. It's they want to be this higher being that is able to influence and create good amongst everyone that they come in contact with. It's my favorite thing in the whole world to be around those people.
Same here, man. A lot of individuals that I'm blessed to be around, and I think the people that get envy or like people envy them or like the haters will call it, it's because they haven't grasped that that's something you could be.
Yeah.
But you just haven't. You want to stay stuck where you're at. I actually call what's called an identity gap. Like you asked, did I do those things in the past? And yes, some of them yes, some of them no. But there's always this difference. There's a person who is who we are now, what we do, and there's a person that we want to be that has what we have. And in between those two is this gap. And we don't usually see it, but it shows up in places that when you actually dig in, like, oh, it's right there. But that gap is what separates you, because if you were the person to have what you want, you'd already have what you want.
Yeah.
It's really that simple. And so when you talk about those guys, they just close the gap somewhere of the self-belief that was limiting, or the procrastination, or the excuses. Like they now find solutions before they find excuses. And so when I look at my life in the past, the programming was I was a guy that I would find the problem. I could have easily said, I suck at football. I'm not going to do this. I'm meant for something else. But I was like, no, I want to be the guy that's on the field that has the touchdowns and has so what do I got to do? And what I got to do is close the gap. And that usually meant doing things that were not who I was just yet. Right? It was like, I want to be a great football player, but I'm not. But what does that person do? Let me do those things, right? And when I would do those things, again, what I was creating me.
Yeah.
I create a faster, stronger, smarter body, right? I create a different sense of pride from my actions I'd created. Then when I stood up later on, I made plays, balled out, touchdowns. Hey, right? So now I look great. And then what happens now, like I'm the guy that's confident. I have the belief. I have the strength. I got the little chip on my shoulder. It didn't happen by accident. I could have easily been the other guy, but I closed the gap. And so for a lot of people, you start creating. And as you create, it'll in turn, like all that stuff created that guy that I wanted to be.
Do you see people, I would say specifically in the NFL, where people are so gifted athletically, but they don't have to do that self-work?
Oh, yeah.
Where the story doesn't turn out. I think that's a situation in which the story doesn't turn out great most of the time because they haven't put that work in.
Yeah. I mean, some guys are able to get 73% of people, guys in the NFL that leave, they go bankrupt within like 3 years.
That's crazy. One of my favorite documentaries of all time is the Broke documentary.
Yeah.
It's hysterically it's terrible. You have millions of dollars.
Yeah.
And it's gone.
Gone.
All you had to do was do nothing.
Yeah, you could have sat there and left.
You were a train wreck. You
Yeah.
knew it was happening, and you couldn't hit the brakes.
It's nuts.
There was not enough self-work done to just say, stop.
No.
I'm going to keep the money.
Yeah. Well, they want to be somebody else. They want to be the guy that it's like now they have a gap of like
balling out of control, though.
Yeah. So some of it's reversed. They were the guy, and they fell back behind the guy for not being the guy. But they wanted to be this guy. They kept doing weird things with their money, but they weren't this guy because they didn't have what that guy had. And so, like, for me, my agent, he's been really cool. He's like, honestly, I didn't make the money a lot of those guys did when I was playing.
You don't need all of it.
No, I mean, I was honestly with the gym.
Doing okay in the NFL is better than okay in most places.
League minimum, I want to say it's like around 400-something-thousand league
You're
minimum.
doing great.
Yeah.
That's a good check every week.
High threes.
Yeah, none wrong with that. Like, but you squander it because you try to play catch up with the big boys, and man, it sucks. Unfortunately, those things go bad because those guys aren't prepared for life after the game because they don't know who they are anymore.
Yeah.
How do you help people identify like the very specific thing that is causing that gap to form?
I call it roots and fruits. So like if you think about a tree, the trees have roots, and however strong or deep the roots are, they get nutrients, they create fruits. Shade, fruits you can feed your family, the fruits of your labor, so to speak. And so what I really do is you go back and say the roots, which are your faith, family, friends, health, and emotions, what depth do they have? I numerically number it 1 to 10. What's the depth? Once we get those out, we say, okay, great, maybe you're a 5 or a 4 or a 3. We just look at, hey, what do we got to do to move that one tick? Like, what's the reason it's not the next level, or why it's not a 10, right? And you'll be able to explain it. If you're honest, you'll be able to explain it. Or ask somebody else in that realm why it's not that thing, and you'll get that answer. Same thing for the fruits, which is going to be your career, your education, your escape, your lift, and your finances. Lift is more your purpose, like why you're here. And if those aren't providing fruit or aren't great, like why is that? And so now we have those. It's like we now can see there's a problem. Let's now analyze that specific problem, and that gives us a clear picture of what the gap could be. So if your finances aren't great, maybe the gap is like you don't save, or you buy stupid stuff like Jordans and Louis Vuitton belts. Stop doing that. Like
Jordans are pretty dope.
Yeah, well,
I don't do J's. I'm not a J's guy, man. I'm a Chucks. I'm a Chucks and Nike shoes guy.
What was the escape?
The escape is more like, are you going and living life? Some people, like my buddy, I love him to death. He doesn't take his vacation very often. And so what happens, we never get recharged. We burn out. And it's just you keep trying. And the burnout, I think, happens because you're trying to be that guy that's that thing, like that money, the house, whatever it is. And you just get stressed. And so the escape is like escape from the normalcy just for a minute to understand why you're doing everything in the first place. Like, enjoy the fruits of your labor.
One of the biggest skills in life is to objectively view your own actions.
Yeah.
It's really, really hard to step outside your body and see the cause and effect of how you live your life. Is it, I mean, and the people that you're working with, are you more reaching them on a business level? Is that kind of the angle, or is this people trying to just live a better life?
It's people who are trying to live a better life. I mean, more so ambitious people. I don't do well with the people like, I got to talk to you to get off the couch.
Yeah.
Like, you got to be wanting to get off the couch.
How do I do something?
Yeah. I need someone that's like, dude, I want to get that done. So it's an ambitious heart. Those are the people I work with. And they're executives, there's moms, there's dads, there's business owners, obviously. Because for me, it's like you're human. You have an identity. And if you are human with an identity who has an ambitious goal, there's a gap somewhere. I have gaps of what I want to do. I'm not going to lie. Like, there's things I want to achieve, but I'm a guy doing the work while teaching the work, right? So I'm not saying I'm going to teach you how to be, The Rock. Like, I'm not The Rock. I'm not that level.
I don't want to be The Rock.
I don't want to. He's crazy. that lifestyle is nuts. But
anytime he posts a picture at like 3 a.m. of him eating a pizza and he's like, got home. Like, you have kids. You just got married. How did this happen?
Yeah, that's the thing. So it's like there's levels I want to achieve, and so I realize I got to find my gaps. I got to close them, right? And so for me, it's expansive, and what's cool about it is once you start doing it, like it's above the level of like just mindset or just working really hard. Like there's a level above because it's all comprised. Like your mindset. A lot of people with great mindsets that are lazy still. Like, I'm gonna work real hard. Like, I'm powerful. I'm creative. I'm strong. But then when like push comes to shove, they make really good excuses. Man, they are soft. They don't get under the bar. Like, it's just a different world. The weight room was a place that built me like internally. Like, knowing I couldn't do something, building that all out. Like, I went from being like a $183 when I went into college as a high school kid, came out at like 240, a house.
Damn.
I got a picture I'm going to show you, man.
Damn.
I was a house back in the day. And it was just like I learned how to be able to push through all these different areas, and it created me in time. Look at this picture, bro. Hey, here it is. Look at that was me when I was a monster.
Ooh.
I was a house back then, dude.
You look like you belong in the NFL.
What did you run your 40 in?
449.
Trust me, you don't want to get hit by that guy that a picture running a 449.
Yeah, man.
That would hurt somebody.
I was big and brutal, but I was that an angry
Damn.
dude. Yeah, man. That's
Yeah,
the
dude,
world
that
we live in.
dude being pissed off and hitting you at full speed must fuck some people up.
Yeah, in my shoulders. I hurt myself a couple times too, unfortunately.
Do people find it interesting? I assume that they find you, and they obviously know that you were in the NFL and that you were, had a successful career.
Yeah.
Do they, in their first interactions with you, is it interesting to them that you don't have it all together?
Yeah. I mean, I think
Does that catch them by surprise?
Yes and no. I think everybody realizes that, nobody's perfect.
Yeah.
But if you think about a football player, it's like this, person up on a pedestal who's just this. You'd be surprised the guys that played with, like, they used to run around the locker room playing soccer butt naked with there's just junk jangling around.
Yeah.
Like, we're real humans.
I'll tell you a really funny story about that.
Yeah, you got one? That's what you
It's
used to do?
hysterical. One of my buddies, I say, is a coach he was a coach at UCLA. He was basically like he slept in the gym locker room, and it was his first coaching gig out of college. And he invited us down, so we go to the Rose Bowl. We're hanging out. We got to go on the field afterwards. He was like, "Yeah, just swing by the locker room." We were with it was me, my buddy, and his girlfriend, and another girl, and we're like, all right, well, we'll just meet you in the locker room. So we go back into the locker room, and me and my male friend take a left into the UCLA locker room, and there is just wang everywhere.
That's how it works.
It's like by the time like all the reporters, the girls, guys, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
These dudes are in their own world.
Yep.
Junk is out. Shit's flopping all over the place. They're having a great time. It's basically a playground where you just don't have to wear clothes. And we just like walked in and was like, turn around, guys. You do not want to take 3 more steps into this locker room.
Yeah, that's how it is in football, man. But that's the reality of the game, realistically.
Yeah. Just big kids hanging out.
That's what they do. I mean, so nobody's perfect. I mean,
Yeah.
for me, 100%. I don't think they're surprised that I don't got it all together. I think they're surprised at times that I will admit that I don't have it all together.
Yeah.
Because a lot of guys don't. We all have stuff. We got garbage, but you can't work on it if you don't own it.
Yeah, is there a piece to coming from the NFL or being kind of like this big macho athlete of really letting go a lot of the ego? Is that a very challenging thing, or was that a very challenging thing for you?
Oh, of course. I think that's what led me to like the path of crazy, is because I just didn't talk about it.
Yeah.
I'm this former NFL guy. I got this gym. I'm the dude from I'm from my own town. Like, I'm the guy. You don't want anybody to take that luster. Like, you want that shine. And so the ego is the one thing I call it everyone's greatest obstacle, EGO. But for me, like, yeah, it definitely
That's
got
good.
away,
I like
bro.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was one of those things but when I was able to push it aside long enough to actually see what I needed to work on, then my life got better.
Yeah.
Because before that, I was just, I got this wall up. Like, if you think about, imagine like a peg in the middle of like the desert, and there's like this weird orb floating around it, right? Protecting that orb, or protecting that post. That post is who you are as your identity. Like, it's literally who you are. And the orb's your ego, and it shows up in protection. Good and bad, actually. So, like, it can be bad if it's like, I don't need help. I'm good. I'm protecting this little small, weak, timid, individual. It'll show up and making excuses and being, just pushing people off and not letting people in. On top of that, it could also be somewhere it's like, I'm a great football player. Therefore, I'm going to protect this with my actions of going to get my weights done. I'm going to eat my food. I'm going to show up for playbooks and learn my plays, and I'm going to do my film. I'm going to do that stuff with the actions. Same for a great dad, a great podcaster, right? You guys do things other people wouldn't do, but it naturally happens. And so when you can get to that kind of being your autopilot, which means first taking the ego out, kind of reprogramming the stinking thing, and then putting it back in and figuring out what identity you want to create to protect, that's where people get to that, like, I call it success becoming your second nature.
Yeah.
It's normal. Like, it's almost the same kind of like ease and flow people have in life now, but the output is way higher.
Yeah.
So you do one-on-one coaching with clients. You've mentioned that.
Yes.
Is that just with you, or do you have other coaches, or do you have other resources for people? Like, what all is available?
Yeah, so I do some one-on-one. I don't do much. I only take on 4 clients at a time. The majority of my work is actually group programs, and we do like live events and workshops and retreats kind of stuff. But yeah, so when you work with me, like, it's my curriculum. I have people I have certified that are kind of going through the process, but I don't put them in the realm of my work yet. So I have a good structure of how I'm live, where I coach the groups, but they're also following my curriculum in the background.
Yeah. So what specifically are you teaching people? It's all based on identity, but how do you phrase it? Like, how do you pitch that to people?
I literally tell them, I'm gonna teach you how to make success your second nature, like how to close your identity gap, and I call it how to make shift happen. So literally it. Like the goal for a lot of people is
got some great terms.
Yeah. Little term. I've spent some time doing this, man. Yeah, I walk them the whole C, shift, sustain. We have what's called the shift starter, which is the whole C phase, and in that, it's all unpacking all this craziness. Like you said, where's my gap? Where's my issues? Like how to fix those. And then once you get to the ownership and you see, then we dream and create a big vision. The next one's incubator, which is all about like the actual work to shift. And the incubator, like it helps develop. So it's more of a group environment, accountability. So it's really helping like people leave that 4-month period of like, this is who I am now. Like I own this is who I am. And then we go to the accelerator, which is more of a mastermind, helping you take this individual and accelerate results based on what you individually want to do. So that's how we do the work, man.
Where's your biggest gap now? Where are you working to close it?
Me? So my biggest gap is trying to get to the we call it the TV land. Like I keep getting weird calls for TV, and they want me to like make a unique show concept, but I haven't leaned into doing it. And so the gap is me telling myself like it's not time.
Oh, I have a lot I can pitch to you right now.
Yeah, I'm sure you can. Hopefully they're not like naked and wings hanging out. I'll be good.
That could be a byproduct.
You want ratings or what?
Yeah, right. That's great. And then I think one of the other things, gap-wise for me personally, I have a gap, and I'm trying to become like one of my kids. My youngest son has ADHD. I love the kid to death, but my gap is like being able to not emotionally fire off when he does stuff. And I do it because I know what's going to happen, because I was that kid if he doesn't figure it out. You know, calls home from school. So my gap is like, how do I – because when your emotion's high, your intelligence is low. So my emotion gets high with this guy so quick. He just eats up – I call my patience points. He eats them up at like 6 in the morning. They're gone sometimes. So it's like, dude. And I'll spend most of the day like trying to figure it out. So my gap as a dad and a human is like I try to figure out how do I in these moments navigate that better. I sometimes feel like, and one time he like recently said like, you're always raging on me. He said that we do this thing every night called good day, bad day. It was the good part of your day, bad part of your day. This day he'd been on fire. And when someone said what's Dad's part, he says I'm Dad's worst part of the day. I was like, damn, bro, like that is not okay. That's on me. Like that's on me. I'm the adult here. And so these are things I'm trying to navigate those. My wife would have real conversations, and I'm not saying I'm perfect in any way. Yeah. But I'm working on it. I'm sitting here admitting it. Therefore, I have permission to work on it.
Yeah. Where can people find out about this course?
If you go to – actually, I have a quiz. It's called slowergo.co. That's the website you go to. But it actually gives you a quiz you can take with a report that will tell you whether you're a slow identity or a go identity. Slow is pretty much like you're a person that when opposition hits you, like, oh, I got to be slow down. I got to figure things out. Like, and you just don't go. A go person is there's multiple levels to a go identity. Like I'm a go identity, but the Rock's a different level go identity, right? So like it's a matter of figuring out who you are. But they can find that slowergo.co or just follow me at Antony Trucks, man, on Instagram.
What's the gap you're closing?
Dude. Man,
I just dinged him right there.
Ooh,
Doug Larson on the interview right now.
Man, you want some real shit? I'll give you real shit right now.
Always. Please. I want the real thing always.
I just said this to somebody I don't think I'd told anyone this beside my wife until earlier today when I was talking to AJ Richards at breakfast, because he was talking about what he does. He does like helping people with mental toughness and things like that. And he was talking about having like early life trauma, and he works with a lot of people that have had real trauma, you know, like you have like a really intense childhood compared to my childhood. You know what I mean? Like some people have just they get a different set of cards. Yeah. And so he works with a lot of people that, you know, they may have been, you know, beaten or molested, and they have trauma, and that's manifesting as they overeat to try to comfort themselves, and then they end up obese. And it's not really like a food knowledge problem, it's a psychology issue. And he was saying, well, it doesn't have to be like getting beaten or molested when you were young that causes you to go down a certain path later in life. It can be something very mild that might affect you, but wouldn't have affected somebody else. And I said, yeah, like I remember one time when I was a sophomore in high school, and a girl, a female friend of mine who ended up being a friend of mine all throughout high school, asked me a very basic question. She said something like, well, if I score something on this test, like I think my grade can only go up. And I was like, well, I mean, it could go up or it could go down. It depends on what you scored. It just gave her like a very basic, like accurate answer. And she looked at me and she goes, you're no fun. And I was like, oh, that shit fucked me up for like 20 years. Like for me thinking that I'm not a fun person.
Yeah.
Like the whole expression of girls just want to have fun and I'm not fun.
Yeah.
Like really ate me up for a long time. And so my gap that I'm closing is believing that I'm a fun person.
Yeah.
So that's your answer.
There you
Ooh,
go.
man. I like that. Put the heart on the table
Well,
right there.
I'm gonna do it too. You can find him at Douglas E. Larson. I'll answer that one for him. All of the 4 things that I really focus on in my life right now, dad and business and training, I feel very, very happy about. But with all of the success of that and being on the road as much as we are, I feel like I have a big gap in the husband that I would like to be. I feel like the more success you have in some areas, it pulls you away from other things, and the reconnection and making sure. I mean, we're on the road a lot, so be weekend 3 in a row, and then we go to Sweden for 10 days. Luckily, they're allowed to come and be a part of that. But when you spend a lot of time away from the people, it's hard to always be connected and be the person that you want to be / should be. And yeah, I'm in the middle of ensuring that those connections stay where they need to be and being a part of that, the ownership piece of that. Because when everything is going right in all of the other things, it's easy to be like, what's wrong with you? Why isn't everything going right now with you? And I am the reason that it's not actually. And being able to like be home, be present as husband, even though dad and business and training and all of those other pieces are pretty fantastic. There's always one that you got to pick up.
Hey, I know the feeling, man.
I'm Anders Varner, at Anders Varner. We're the Shrug Collective, at Shrug Collective. Squat, clean, jerk. Squat, clean, jerk. Snatch, clean, jerk. Squat, dead, bench. OneTonChallenge.com. Come hang out with us. We'll see you guys next Wednesday.